Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the second channel. As you can see, I'm going to be ranking, or grading, I should say, every single anime I've seen. Now, they are in order as well, so it's going to start from my least favorite anime I've watched all the way up to my favorite with grades, and I will kind of explain everything. Now, before I get into it, I just want to say this is my opinion. This is what I believe. Truthfully, there's no rage bait here whatsoever, so you're going to see some that you're definitely going to disagree with, but I will explain my reasoning. Whether you like it or not, it's my truth. All right. So first off, we're going to kick it off with Solo Leveling. This is my least favorite show, and for Solo Leveling, I gave it an F. Now, my reasoning is season 1 was 12 episodes, and I dropped it because of how boring it is. I watched 4 or 5 episodes, and the main character is incredibly boring. There was zero story progression. There was no goal at all listed in the show yet. Like, nothing happened. The only cool thing was the statue, and that was it. Once the statue went away, I was like, this show is super boring. I think overall the concept of dungeons is kind of stupid anyway, so the concept already is kind of lame. And then you introduce zero characters other than the main character, who is a snooze fest. And then the power system also is really stupid and boring. I just thought it's completely overrated. I think it's a terrible show. That's why I gave it an F. Next, we have Boruto. Boruto will also receive an F because, not because the show is necessarily F tier, because I did drop it, so it probably is, but, I don't know all of it. But I've read the manga, and I've watched some of this, and holy is it night and day. I mean, the manga is fantastic, and the anime is horrible. Like, I don't understand. The anime is terrible. So, yeah, it deserves an F for sure. Next, we have Skate the Infinity. For Skate the Infinity, I give it an F. This show is horrible, 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 horrible. This is like the worst show ever. The dude in the red is the main character. He does nothing the whole show. Now, he is the only good character in the show. I actually like him. He has a great character personality, but he's absolutely wasted in a show like this. He does nothing. I watched over half of this show, and it is horrible. It is just about furries, femboys, and pedophiles, and I'm not even, like, exaggerating. That is what it's about. It is not even about skating for real, and the main character isn't even the main character. He just lets the blue-haired dude do everything. So, this show, in my opinion, is dog shit. It is horrible. I don't know why anyone would ever watch this. I wish the main character was in something else, because he's actually cool. But everyone else in this show is horrible. This show, deservedly, gets an F. Next, we have Elusive Samurai. I'm going to just rip the Band-Aid off. This is another F tier for me. There's not many shows I don't like, but this is definitely one of them. This show has zero sense whatsoever in terms of who it is made for, because it's all about kids, right? And it's all about kids beating up adults and stuff, so it's like, oh, you'd think it's a kid's show. Then they have people getting decapitated and shit, and, like, people getting stabbed and shot, and I'm like, so this isn't for adults. Like, every character is super childish, but it's not for kids either, because it has a bunch of adult, like, scenes in it and stuff. Like, who is the show for? I don't understand how people enjoy this. The main character is absolutely horrible, and the dude back there is also terrible. Now, the kids beside him actually aren't bad. That's why I rank it higher than the other ones, because some of the characters are decent. The only good character, however, like, really good character, is the main villain. This show, I definitely would not be watching season 2. This show sucked. I actually did finish it, though, so that's why I ranked it higher as well, where, like, I couldn't get through Solo Leveling or Skate the Infinity or Boruto. Whereas this, I did get through it, but it sucks. It is not good at all. It has zero target audience, like I said. This isn't for kids. It's not for adults. I don't know who this is for. I don't know how anyone can enjoy this. So, F. Next, we have Sword Art Online, which, if you follow my TikTok, you've definitely seen my opinions on this before, which I'll leave it in the description below. But I'm giving it a D+. The first season is fantastic. The second season is decent. Everything after that is horrible. I mean, and I can't even say that because I haven't finished the show for good reason, but you have to watch everything after, and season 3 and 4 are just terrible. Absolutely terrible. The characters are decent, that's why I put it in D+, but just overall, this show is horrible. I do feel bad for the creator, though, because this, I believe, was his first ever work, and it blew up so quickly, so, I like to give it a little bit of leeway, but the show's not very good at all. So D+. Next we have Psyche K, which I think a lot of people might be mad is this low. I put it at a C-. Personally, I thought some moments were funny, but this is the only anime I've ever fell asleep while watching. It might be the only show I've fallen asleep while watching, because it is boring whenever you're not laughing, and not every joke hits. So, sometimes it's funny, but if it's not funny, it's a completely boring show. So that's why it gets a C- for me. There's nothing there except comedy, and when the comedy's not hitting, it's bad. All right, next we have Rave Master. This is another show I have not finished, but I do enjoy it, and I do plan on finishing it. It's just so old, and you can tell this is literally just the blueprint for Fairy Tail. It's made by the same guy, of course. So this is literally, and it has a Fairy Tail collab if you watch Fairy Tail. This show is good-ish. It's just mid. It's definitely the blueprint for Fairy Tail, so I give it a C. Great main character, though. Next, we have Demon Slayer. This is another show that's overrated, I think, purely off visuals, which I don't understand. I just don't get watching a show for visuals only. I feel like it is better to enjoy for the story, which I can't judge how everyone watches their show, but for me personally, I need more than just animation, and the story is not there, so I give this a C as well, because it's mid. It has two good characters at best, which is Zenitsu and Tengen. Everyone else in the show is alright. I could see Inosuke being up there as well if you like him. He's just not my style, but at most, they have three good characters in the show, which sucks. Tanjiro's story makes no sense whatsoever. He watches his whole family get killed, and he just moves on, like nothing happened. He ain't looking for revenge. He's just he's working on getting Nezuko better, but doesn't really do anything. Overall, this show, the plot is not very good at all. The fights are really the only good thing, and there's two good characters. The rest of the characters are boring. No one really cares about them. I've never heard anyone say, "Oh, I like Tanjiro," or any other character, because they all suck. So it's a C. Next we have Gurren Lagann. This is another show I dropped, not because it's bad. Like, I like it, but I just don't care for mech stuff. And at first, when they were just exploring this shit, I was like, this is really, really cool. And then it just became a bunch of mech crap, and I was like, now it's stupid. Like, if they just explored the Earth without the mechs and stuff like that, and just found a way to survive and bring back, like, what's it called, a sustainable Earth or whatever, I would like it a lot more. I just think the mech stuff ruined it for me, so I stopped watching it because I didn't really care for the mech stuff. But those three characters, absolutely amazing. I mean, they have good characters and stuff, and the story's decent. And just, in my opinion, it falls off entirely when the mechs get introduced. So it will get a C+. Next, we have Attack on Titan. A lot of people are going to get mad at me for this one. I have not finished it, so just to make that clear, it will probably go up when I finish it. But 2 seasons in, so halfway, this show is extremely predictable. I think there's been like one thing that hasn't been predictable in the first 2 seasons. And so it's going to land here for now. Once I finish it, it'll probably go up. Now, how people have this in their top 10, I have no idea, because I've watched half of it. And if half of it is super easy to predict, and half of it, it's not real eventful, unless you really like Titans, but I think Titans are a really boring concept in general, which is also why I think this show's bad. But I just don't understand how this isn't people's top 10 at all. I mean, I'm sure it gets way better, and I'm sure the ending might be amazing, but like the whole first half is super predictable, and yeah, it's just very, very simple as well. I guess it'd be a good anime to start on if you've never watched one, but if you watched a couple, you kind of know how the first half goes. Like I said, I think it will go up, but as of now, Attack on Titan is a C+. Next, we have Assassination Classroom. This show is good. This show's just very forgettable. I think everybody, like all my friends, have watched this, and none of us can remember any of it. But it was good. Like, we remember enjoying it. It's just very forgettable. Also, the main character is not that good at all. Koro is definitely really cool, and the overall concept is really cool, but yeah, it's just kind of a forgettable story. I remember enjoying it, though, and I remember a few episodes, but it's very forgettable, so it's going to go C+. Alright, next we have Pokemon. Pokemon, depending on who you are, can go higher or lower. But for me, I'm ranking all of it, so I'm not just ranking one, because if it was like Indigo League, it would go way higher, honestly. because some of these like Pokemon shows they drop are really good, and then some of them are really bad. So it's like, it's almost 50-50. So for that, I'm gonna have to go B minus, because obviously I'm just not gonna watch the bad ones. So just watch the good ones. There's different parts, so you can enjoy whichever Pokemon generation you enjoy the most. So yeah, I'm gonna go B minus. Next we have Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail is a good-ish show. I think my opinion on Fairy Tail, I think a lot of people can agree with. It's 50-50, honestly. You're either going to get an amazing arc or a dog shit arc. I really don't feel like there's any mid arc in this anime. In this anime, you either get really good arcs or really bad arcs. Now, I tend to lean on the more positive side, which is why like this and Pokemon are going to go higher than C, which would be like a mid tier. Because, I quite enjoy the enjoyable moments. I'm really going to forget about the bad stuff anyway, so... But yeah, that's why it's this low, because there's a lot of arcs that are like bad. There's also a lot of really good ones, like I think it's called Tower of Heaven, the Jalal arc. That one is a 10 out of 10 arc. And then like, I don't think it's right after, but soon after, the Edalus arc. That arc is a 0 out of 10. So you go from a 10 out of 10 quickly to a 0 out of 10. That's my problem with the show, is just some arcs are amazing and some arcs are horrible. So it gets a B minus. Next we have Windbreaker. I think this show is decent, but the second season's not out yet. It's only 12 episodes we can work with. The main character is really the only character that makes sense in this show, to be completely honest, which is kind of weird because he's like a lunatic, but he makes sense. A lot of the other people really don't, and overall it's very cringy. Like, I don't know if it's just the dub or what, but I remember watching, they were like, "Tell him you got this," and I was like, dude, these are high schoolers, man. Ain't no one acting like this in high school. That's what I'm saying. This guy is the only one that really acts his age. The rest of them either act way older or way younger. Like, it is, it's weird. It's decent, though. The fights are really good, and like I said, he's a cool main character, and some of the other characters around him are cool. It's just, the story's really cringy, so it gets a B. Next, another controversial one is going to be Vinland Saga. Now, for this, I really enjoy the show. I haven't finished it yet. And the reason I have it this low is because I don't really like Vikings. Honestly, I don't like the story, mainly because of the Viking stuff. I don't care about it. So it's not for me that this show is like bad or wrote bad or I have any problem with any of it. It's just I don't like Vikings. So for me, it makes this story kind of bad. I don't really care for that stuff. Like all the story and stuff, I'm sure is good if you like the Viking stuff or medieval times and stuff like that. But for me, it's boring. I don't really care for it. And also, Thorfinn is really the only good character in my opinion, at least from what I've seen. And he definitely carries the show. Like, and Thorfinn's one of the best main characters ever. So if you even replaced him with a decent main character, I think the show would be bad. But with Thorfinn, the show is actually really good. So yeah, I just don't really like Vikings at all. So it's going to put it in B because I don't care for the story at all. Next we have Golden Kamuy. This show is funny. I haven't finished this either, but I do plan on finishing it soon. It is very funny. The story is actually very interesting and unique. It plays on a soldier and stuff who's kind of been betrayed, I guess. So it's pretty cool. I'm not going to say too much about it. I just think it's very funny, and I think the story is very unique. And although I don't really like older stuff, because this takes place in the 1800s, this show is pretty good. I believe it's the 1800s. But yeah, this show is pretty good. And yeah, so I'm going to give it a B as well. Alright, next we have Blue Exorcist. I am behind on this show. I was caught up. And then they're like, yeah, we're just going to drop like 3 seasons within a year. And I'm like, what the? I haven't watched any since. So, from what I've seen from this, I really like this show. I love the plot. I just think there's times where the characters kind of feel lost. And even the story sometimes feels lost. I think there's a little stronger push on the story and the characters, and it'd be great. But like, I don't even remember anyone's name other than Rin, and I really enjoyed this show. I just remember that's his brother. I remember the girl that keeps the sword in her boobs. Sorry, that's what happens. And I remember all these characters, but I don't remember them doing much. They're not really memorable. But it is a really great story, and I love how they did Rin. He's just like an angel who's been cursed by the devil, so it's really cool. I'm gonna give it a B. Next, we have Death Note. This is also kind of controversial, I think. I think a lot of people would have this higher, but for me, Death Note kind of falls off as soon as Misa's introduced. I just think she's a horrible character. Whether she does anything or not, she kind of ruins the entire story, in my opinion. I think her existence is completely pointless, and it kind of screws everything over. Um, at least for me in my mind, because then it's like, okay, this is just BS. Because then when she gets introduced, I get she doesn't do much, but the fact that she exists just means like this is getting unrealistic at this point, because if she doesn't do much, or if she does do much, then it's going to be dumb either way. So her existence in general would just piss me off. It's stupid. And obviously when one of the main characters die, I'm not going to say who it is, the show really falls off. So for me, B plus. I mean, it is a great first half, and then after that, yeah. Next we have Baki. I like Baki a lot. I think Baki Hanma's way better than Baki. So yeah, but I kind of count them together because it's like Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. You know, they kind of have to go together. But Baki, it has great fights. Honestly, you could see the characters are super jacked and stuff. I think the story in Baki Hanma is actually pretty good. The story in Baki is easy to get lost on, so I'm not a big fan of that. So it's honestly kind of a balance of good and bad all around. But I think it does fights very well, and I think it's very unique on the way they do fights. Like, I've never seen anyone do this. Like, even like if you look at something like Ippo, which is boxing, and they do shadow boxing and stuff, they don't do it like Baki. Like, no one does it like Baki. The fights are super unique, and that's why I have it this high. Also, the storyline, like, there's an episode where he takes the president of the United States hostage. Like, it's just interesting. So I'm gonna give it a B plus. All right, next we have Cyberpunk Edge Runners. I think a lot of people are also gonna be mad this is so low, but I have a really good reasoning for it. If you disagree, I don't care. I love this show, especially the first half. But when the big guy died, I don't want to spoil, but when the big guy died, it kind of went downhill, not because he was gone per se, but just the effect it had on David. I think it was just kind of dumb to make such a smart character such an idiot. Like, the way he lived his life the rest of the show was just stupid. Like, I get it, being overrun by human emotion, but everyone around him is a moron other than Lucy. Lucy's the only character with half a brain in this show, and it pissed me off because he starts off at like one of the highest schools, one of the highest value schools you can be at. So you got to be kind of smart to at least be in there, which I know the reason why he was in there, but still they're not going to let him in just because of money or whatever. They're also going to make sure he's smart. So he's a smart kid, and he hangs around other people who seem to be smart, and then they all do stupid stuff the entire time. There's also no real timeline for this, no real world building or explanation. I get they want you to play the game, but I don't want to play the game. So there's a lot missing. I think David and the rest of the crew just turn into idiots after the big guy's gone. And yeah, Lucy's really the only character that makes any sense in this show. So that's why I have it down here, although it's a great experience. And if the goal of this ending was to piss me off, then it did great. So for me, I'm going to give it a B+. plus. I thought it was great. It's just completely overrated in my opinion. I thought the ending was stupid. All right, next we have Chainsaw Man. I honestly thought I was going to hate this show when I first watched it because all the clips I saw were just horrible. And I did enjoy this show, but there's some stuff about it that I can't get over really. Like, I think the main story of the show is really, really good, and then everything else is really bad. Like, Denji's whole side quest of being super horny is terrible. The fact Power doesn't shower or wash herself, like, why? Like, I just don't understand why they do this shit. The fact Makima is like has a slave kink or whatever, like, it is so weird. Like, why does that shit have to be in this? Also, none of the characters are bad or good in my opinion. All the characters are kind of neutral, so it's like I have no one to even root for. I just really like the main story, the overall of what they're going for. I think that's cool. I think everything else is pretty bad though. It is definitely a loser that wrote this, no offense. He even said he was bullied in college by girls. And then he liked it. Like, I was like, what? So yeah, it kind of explains why the story's like this. Also, I don't understand how you get bullied in college. I've never seen that in my life. But anyway, Chainsaw Man is going to be a B+. Yeah, there was no side stories and it was all the main story. It could potentially be A+, something like that. All right, next we have Dragon Ball. This is all of Dragon Ball, so I won't include GT. This is going to be Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, and Dragon Ball Daima, which I have not watched Daima yet, but it doesn't look that great in my opinion. But anyway, we have Dragon Ball here. I think the original is the best, and I think the show slowly gets worse and worse and worse as it goes on. So Dragon Ball, honestly, the first one, I'd probably give like an A+. Dragon Ball Z, I'd give like a B+. Dragon Ball Super, I'd give like a B-. And then Daima just looks incredibly stupid, and I don't care if it's good at all. They really released that just so we didn't see more Vegeta fights. That's all I'm saying. It's completely stupid. They just didn't want to see Vegeta get his shine. They didn't want to see that. They didn't want Super to progress, so whatever. I'm giving it a B+. Alright, next we have Beyblade. Yes, I do think Beyblade is better than Dragon Ball. I don't care what you say, I do think it is better. Now, I can't rate every Beyblade because I haven't watched Burst or like Shogun Steel, but I've watched the original Beyblade and all the Metal series, and off of that, those are really good. However, I heard the new ones aren't as great, and I tried to watch Burst, and it is literally just Metal Fusion with different names. Like, the story starts the exact same way. So I stopped watching because I was like, this is going to be the same thing. I don't know if that's true or not, but it starts off the same exact way. So for me, I thought the show was really enjoyable. Yes, it's for kids, but man, they are about that action for real. I mean, Ryuga blows up like a flying city and shit. Like, it is crazy. Ryuga even tries to kill the main character's dad. Like, nah, they're about that action in this. It's a good show, honestly. No matter what age you are, it actually has a really good story. Believe it or not, the characters are obviously childish, but the story kind of carries you through, and at least it has a direction, unlike other childish shows that I've mentioned before. I'm gonna give it a B+. All right, next we have Bleach. Again, haven't finished Bleach. I'm really close to finishing the first Bleach, so I haven't got the 1,000 year, but I'm watching it with a friend, and we're close to finishing the first Bleach. Honestly, the show is good, but it is not as good as the other two in the big three, at least so far. Like, this many episodes, it's got about like 200, and we're like about 150, 160 in of canon episodes, obviously, because the rest is filler. And I don't put filler into this. I don't really care. I'm going to skip it anyway. But for Bleach, I just feel like if you compare the first 200 episodes of Bleach, which is the whole first show, it is nothing compared to One Piece and Naruto. And I don't like to compare stuff to the big three, but it's in the big three, so it's got to be compared, right? And also, as well, as far as we've gotten, the story is kind of getting to a point where it's getting a little predictable. Also, as well, Ichigo's the only character that does anything, and I love Ichigo. I think he's the best main character in the big three. But he's the only one that does anything until, like, oh, the captains show up to save everyone. It happens every arc. And it's dumb, in my opinion. Because he has all this main cast around him, and they suck. And then when some of them do stuff like Uryu or Renji, they're the most boring fights in the world. They're the most boring characters in the world. I used to like Renji. Then I got the Hueco Mundo, and I'm like, this motherfucker sucks. Like, it is literally a snooze fest when Renji or Uryu fights. Chad is cool. Rukia is alright. But again, they all just get bodied all the time. It's only Ichigo that ever does anything. And it's kind of annoying. Like, it's good because I like Ichigo, but I'd like for some other characters to actually have some character, have some feats. Everyone that shows up always loses until they get saved by the head captains or whatever. Like, it just kind of sucks. It is a good show, but it's definitely overhyped in my opinion. I'm giving it an A-. Next we have Rurouni Kenshin. I enjoy the show a lot. Unfortunately, you know, I'm not going to talk about it too much, but the creator is a piece of shit. So, yeah, it hurts to support this show because I definitely don't support the creator. He's a terrible human being. But the show is really good. I mean, I can't lie. It is fantastic. I haven't watched the original. This is the new one. I also haven't watched season 2 yet. But off of season 1, I'd say it's great. I mean, it really shows what it's like to turn your life around, honestly. Kenshin, I think his name's Kenshin Himura or something like that. He's just a big inspiration to everyone around him, not only in the show, but people that watch the show as well, because he went from a murderer to a peaceful person who just likes to help. And overall, I just think the flow of this show is really good. I think the story's really good, and I like the characters a lot. They're really entertaining. Although I can't remember any of their names, they're all very entertaining. So, yeah, I'm going to give it an A- as well. All right, next we have One Punch Man. Some people like to call it a parody anime, but in my opinion, I don't really see it as that. But I do see it as a show that is funny. It is funny. I like the story, and now I think when season 3 comes out, it will be bumped up. Because if you've seen any of the manga that's going to be adapted, you know this next season is going to be insane. I'm just ready for Garo, man. Garo's my favorite character, and once he got introduced, the story picked up for me. I enjoy it a lot, and I think it's simple. I think anyone can enjoy it. I think that's why it's so good, because it's funny, it has good fights, it has a good story. It's not the best at any of those, but it definitely does its job at combining everything you could want in an anime. So that's why I think it's this high. It's just not super. It's just not. I shouldn't say super great, because it is super great, but it's not the best at anything. So that's why I'm gonna put it at A minus. All right, next we have Jujutsu Kaisen, or JJK. This is only anime only, because if this was the manga, it would be way lower. I hate the rest of the manga, to be honest. I don't really enjoy any of it after this. This will probably go down as more and more gets animated. But the first two seasons of JJK are absolutely fantastic, and the movie, of course. I mean, they're great. The characters are fantastic. The storyline is fantastic. The only problem is that everything kind of feels like one big arc, and that's kind of the problem, at least where it gets to in the manga, which I'm not going to explain. But they could have pivoted here and done some other stuff, but it all kind of feels like one big arc, to be honest. But yeah, the anime is fantastic. Obviously, the fights are great. The characters are great. I don't think there's a single character I dislike in the show. And I actually like most of them, like not even neutral about. Like all the main cast, Yuji, Gojo, Nobara, Megami. I love all of them. That's probably the best main cast in all anime, in my opinion. But I just think they miss on some other stuff, especially given other characters their spotlight. So that's why I'm going to give it an A. Fantastic show. But they're just slacking on a little bit. Like I said, this will probably go down as more and more is animated, but as of now, it's an A. All right, next we have My Hero Academia. This show is borderline perfect, but there's one giant issue in my opinion, and that is the main character, Deku. Deku is so annoying, honestly, and I know people either hate Deku or love Deku. I'm on the hate Deku train. I think he's really cool when he's fighting, but the second he's not in a fight, he turns into the biggest loser in the world and the most annoying character in the world. When he's fighting, he's a badass, right? But when he's not fighting, like, I'd rather watch like nails on a chalkboard. Like, he is so annoying when he's not fighting. And he's the main character. Like, why we gotta follow him? Like, Bakugo would have been such a better main character. I'm just saying, there's a reason Bakugo won the best hero award in Japan, because he is. Bakugo's way better. He should have been the main character. But anyway, that is what holds the show back. The main character just sucks. Everyone else in the show is great. The plot in the show is great. Overhaul is a fantastic villain. I think they also do kind of miss on villains a little bit, because Overhaul is by far the best, and the rest of them are okay. Shigaraki's decent, but we'll have to see how it ends. But yeah, I think they could work on the villains a little more. I think Overhaul is really the only good one. So I'm giving it an A. Next we have Death Parade. Honestly, this show caught me by surprise. I do a thing where I spin a wheel for a new anime, pretty much. Last One Standing, I watch. And I got Death Parade. I put it on there because I was like, it's short, you know. I give it a try. It looks interesting. And oh boy, was I not disappointed. I loved this show. Now, I will admit, it does start a little bit slow, because you don't really get the point of the story until like episode 3 or 4. But then after that, you're like, okay, I kind of get it. And then once it hits like those last 4 episodes, it really picks up, and it is really, really impactful. I remember so many emotions throughout this show. It was just so good. And honestly, I feel like this show is just about human emotion. I think it is a perfect representation of human emotion. And you will get emotional in some way watching this, in my opinion. At least if you have emotions and don't try to be like a tough guy. Because the show is really good, and it strikes every chord. You know, happiness, sadness, joy, envy. Like, it makes you feel everything, you know? So I think it's great. Although it's only 12 episodes, it is a wild 12 episodes, and fantastic at that. I give it an A. All right, next we have The God of High School. This is only off anime, because if this was on the manhwa as well, I'd rank it way higher, because I've started reading this because I was like, man, we're never getting a season 2. Little Behold season 2 is being worked on right now, which is kind of crazy. I just had to complain and read it, I guess, and now they're like, oh, we'll make the second season after 5 years. I'm like, okay. I love this show, honestly. Now, obviously, it's going to pick up more when the rest of it gets animated, but season 1, I think, was great. I don't think it was missing anything. The only complaint is that if you read it, you know they were missing some stuff, right? Like they didn't include everything. They cut out some stuff to speed it up, which sucks because some of it's pretty important and they're going to need next season. It's not like they cut out non-important stuff. They cut out some important stuff. But obviously if you never read it, you wouldn't know. But even if you never read it and watched, you would kind of see it feels a little rushed. And I think that's the only issue it has. I think everything else is great. Main character, great. Side cast, great. Villains, great. Plot, great. Everything else is great. It's just they cut out some important information and it can feel a little rushed. So I'm going to give it an A. Cannot wait for season 2. All right, next we have Code Geass. I like to call it Code Geass. This is a fantastic show. And I think it has two of the best. It has the best start of any anime, in my opinion. It is definitely up there at least. Maybe I'm blanking on one that's better, but I think it has the best start of an anime, and it has the best ending of an anime. Now, the reason it's not higher is because the stuff in between can feel a little slow at times, because it's 48 episodes, 24 episode seasons each, I believe. And, yeah, it's great, but there's just some episodes that feel a little drawn out, and some of the plot feels a little drawn out at times. But it is still amazing. Really, really great show. Like I said, probably the best start and finish to an anime, in my opinion. Yeah, probably. It is very, very good. So I'm going to give it an A+. The only thing is just a little bit slow at times. All right, next we have Hunter x Hunter. Hunter x Hunter is amazing if you watched it. Honestly, the only thing that holds this back is we haven't got a new season in forever. And that we haven't finished the story, right? That the plot is still wide open. And I know people were like, oh, well, you shouldn't base it off that, but kind of have to. If a story has no finish, how good of a story can it be? And this is probably the best story with no finish. If any story didn't have if every single story didn't have a finish, this would be the best one. It is just so good. It just needs that finish, honestly. That is the only reason it's not higher, is because there's so much more to learn. There's so much more to go within this. So that's the reason it's not higher, honestly. That's it. I have no complaints about this show whatsoever. A+. Next we have Mashle. I put Mashle above it. I just love this show. I didn't think I'd like this either, and I was like, I'll give it a try. This is probably the funniest show I've watched. It is so funny. Honestly, Mashle's a really good main character too, or Mash, I should say. His name's not Mashle. He's a very good main character, and I think, although it definitely is a parody anime. It's like Harry Potter with muscles. He is a very in-depth main character, honestly. Like, you get a lot out of him for him being so straightforward and a gym head. He gets a lot of character, honestly. It's probably the most I've seen from a character like this, so I rate that highly. The side cast is really good, and obviously they're all just like parody characters, so everyone is super exuberant, and it's a really fun show to watch. And then you get to season 2, which dropped, and then it develops a really interesting story. So it's not just funny and a parody anymore. It is a really interesting story. So I think they did a fantastic job with this. This is probably the best parody anime ever. I don't think you could have anything higher. So yeah, for me, it's going to get an A+. Next, we have Bungo Stray Dogs. I mean, I think some people could argue there's some arcs where there's parody in this, but this is definitely not a parody anime. And I think this is going to be high for a lot of people, and I don't think a lot of people have really seen this. This was another show I got off the wheel, and watching this was just awesome. I really had no complaints. I don't think there's a single unlikable character in the show. I think the villains are fantastic. I think the storyline is fantastic. And what I love is they take simple stuff that I actually hate. Like, they have an apocalypse arc. I hate those. They did it beautifully. It was the best I've ever seen of one of those. I also hate memory loss. I think that's the worst trope in any amount of fiction. They did it great in this. They're like memory loss stuff. So, in my opinion, I like the way they take common tropes and made them amazing. Like, this guy proved that, whoever made this, proved that you can make something great out of anything, right? Even something basic, but the overall story is great, and the characters, I love them all. And Dazai is honestly one of the greatest characters in all of anime, in my opinion. So yeah, just a fantastic show. I have no complaints about it, really. Just waiting on the end, similar to Hunter x Hunter, A+. Next, we have Hajime no Ippo, or, I just call it Ippo. This show, again, is great. All these shows at this point are great, amazing. I'd recommend all of these. All of these are perfect shows in most eyes, or majority eyes, I should say. In Ippo, although it's not finished, and who knows when it'll be finished because the manga's still going on and the production is slow. Jesus. But anyway, fantastic. Ippo is the embodiment of an athlete. If you've ever participated in any sports, if you ever consider yourself an athlete, if you watch this, you'll be able to resonate with everything Ippo says and does. You will love him as a character. You'll love the entire show because this is an athlete. This is an athlete show. It's not no bullshit like any other sports show, which this is the only one I've watched, so I can't say those are bad, but they definitely have bullshit in them. There's no bullshit in this. This is real. This is as real as it gets when it comes to anime. It is just real. It is so good. I honestly, when you watch it, you don't even feel like you're watching it. Like a fight will last like 8 episodes, and you'll be done with it like that, and it'll be so entertaining. So Ippo for me gets an A++. It's hard to get better than that. All right, next we have Fire Force. I love Fire Force. In season 3, oh my god, this is probably going to push it up. This is where it's at with just 2 seasons. We haven't even got to the end yet, and this is where it's at. Again, great characters, great music, great story, great plot, great villains. There's nothing bad about this show. And the main character, Shinra, is like, he's the definition of what it means to be a hero. And his trope with him being a devil and stuff is just, it's just fantastic. Everyone in the squad has their own thing. I know a lot of people don't really care for Tamaki, but I like her a lot. I think she makes sense for everything, and so I don't really care about the fan service stuff they do for her. I enjoy the entire show. Arthur's my favorite by far. He is the strongest, smartest idiot. That sounds so stupid, but he is. You'd have to watch it. It's great. I even just got a Joker tattoo recently. Right there. It's kind of hard to see. Still recovering. But this show is absolutely beautiful. There's no complaints. There's nothing wrong with this. Just waiting on an ending as well. A++. Next we have Mob Psycho 100. This show did have an ending. And some people were on the fence. There's some people that didn't even watch the last season because they're like, oh, it's not canon ending. It's not from the manga. You should watch it if that's your opinion, because the season 3 ending is a masterpiece. I honestly think the season 3 of Mob Psycho could be the greatest season of anime ever. Honestly, it was so good. Overall, this entire show is just amazing. This is just about a kid who can't do anything and does everything. It is just great. I think everyone in some way can relate to this because Mob's not good at anything. And we all struggle with stuff. But he struggles with it all. And he still makes the biggest impact in the show on everyone. And so, I love this show so much. It is one of the greatest main characters ever. And honestly, one of the greatest side characters of all time. Reagan is in the show. He is up there. He might be number 1, honestly. He's so good. This show is just amazing, and it'll make you feel something. A++. All right, next we have Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. This is, I believe, my number 6. So moving on, this will be the top 5 after this one. But Full Metal Alchemist is an amazing show. This was another wheel spin show I got, and I was wanting to watch this for a long time because I heard it was really good. I didn't expect it to be this good. It was hard to put down. I took one break. It has 64 episodes, I believe. I watched 32. I was like, I'm going to take a break. I've been watching this nonstop. Took like a 2-week break, came back, finished it all immediately. It is so good. I mean, I just don't... This might be the greatest story in anime. I just really can't get over how good the story is. And the ending, this is one of the only endings that can compete with Code Geass. It is up there. It is for sure up there. And I'm losing words because of how great this show was, honestly. I teared up almost every single episode while watching this, whether it be happy, sad. And at the ending, I cried for like 5 minutes. And I don't even know why. Like, it wasn't sad or anything. It was just so beautiful. I don't understand how this show is so good. And I don't understand how more people haven't seen this. This show is so amazing. The fact I have 5 shows above this, in my opinion, is crazy, but that just shows how good some anime are, because this is a perfect show. There's not a single thing bad about this show, and still, so it's going to get an A++. Alright, number 5 in my top 5 anime ever is going to be Cowboy Bebop. Might be a little bit of recency bias, because I just finished this. Spike is probably the greatest character in anime. Honestly, I could not relate to anyone more than Spike. Everything in Spike's life could translate to my life, and it would be the exact same. Um, I don't know. I feel like Spike a lot. I don't know. And yeah, he kind of carries this. That's why it's not higher, because the show as well, it has almost no plot, but at the same time has one of the greatest stories ever. I don't understand it. It is an anomaly of a show, because every episode they're doing something different and they don't even necessarily relate to each other. But then when you finish an episode, you can't help but feel good. And then when you finish the show, you're like, that was a beautiful story. The music in the show as well. Oh my God. I love the way they do sound. In my opinion, this show has the best sound. And I know it's going to sound crazy because like when we pass things like Fire Force, but it's the lack of sound in this show that makes it good. You hear all the footsteps. You hear doors opening. You hear birds flying. You hear everything. It's like you're there. Like I can't explain it. It's like you're there. And it's so old and it looks so good. I just can't explain it. And like I said, I think Spike is the greatest anime character ever. The show's so good. Especially this is the best show from pre-2000s, that's for sure. So yeah, that's my number 5, Cowboy Bebop. Just cannot get over how good it is. S-. Now, I know some people may not like this, but it's top 5, you know? So it's like, I wanted to build it up because they can't all just be like A++, you know? Because it's my top 5, you know? They gotta be a little special. Next, number 4, we have One Piece. I think this is the most entertaining show ever. That is my opinion. It's just super entertaining. It's not my favorite show because I, like other stuff other than just like pure entertainment, but it is the most entertaining show. It's super enjoyable. It has great characters. I don't even like Luffy that much, to be honest, and I still love this show. The only issue is that the fact that it is so long, you're not going to see your favorite characters all the time, unless if they're on the... Well, even that's not true. Unless if your favorite character is Luffy, you are not going to see your favorite character all the time. Like, Zoro's probably my second favorite character, and I don't even see him every arc. Kid is my favorite character, and I've seen him 2-3 arcs. Maybe 4 at most. And then the other one, Bardo. I've seen Bardo for 1 arc. I'm ready to see him again. So, that is one thing that sucks. I wouldn't really call that a negative, though. The only bad thing about this show is the pacing, but it's getting reanimated with better pacing, so that will soon not be a complaint anymore. But yeah, I think the only issue with this show is animation. Not animation, pacing. It can be a little slow at times, but other than that, I think it's a fantastic show. It's also going to get an S-. My number 3, my third favorite anime of all time is Black Clover. I love it. If you've seen my TikTok, you know how I feel about Asta. I enjoy every character in the show. The only one I wish was better was Ghosh, because, everybody knows about Ghosh. Yeah, I wish he didn't have that. But the rest of the characters are super enjoyable. I love all of them. I think Noelle is one of the best female characters. Mereoleona as well. They have some great villains. But I think what puts the show so high for me is Asta. When I'm feeling down, when I'm not feeling motivated, or when I'm at the gym and I'm feeling kind of lazy, I think of Asta, and it actually inspires me. I don't know if any character is a bigger inspiration, fictionally wise, other than Asta, at least for me. Because for me, when I think of Asta, it makes me want to work hard. When I hear any Black Clover music, it makes me think of Asta, and I immediately want to go work hard. I want to go just grind it out. His mindset is just contagious. I don't know what it is, and I love it. Also, that all these weird people put together as a family, and I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially like they're weird, or they have weird friends, or they know weird people in their family. But this is a group of weird hoodlums, and they're all family. Not a one is like each other. They're all family. So I think, yeah, this show's just fantastic. It is going to get an S from me. Number 2, my second favorite show of all time has got to be JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I don't think this will change when Steel Ball Run gets animated. I've read it, and I'm halfway through JoJo Line. I think it'll probably remain here forever. But this show is so good. Again, nothing wrong with it. I love the characters. The story in this show, oh my god, is perfect. There's not a better story in my opinion. The only one that's close is probably Full Metal. Just everything about this show, it has everything. It's perfect. It is. But there's just one that's a little more perfect, which is why it's number 2. But this show's perfect. That's all it is. I can't say anything bad about it. If you want to say Stardust is paced a little bad, that's fair. But that's my favorite part. I liked that it was long. I loved it. So all the parts people have problems with, I enjoyed them. The only part that isn't great is part 4, Josuke's part. And it's because Josuke just doesn't do much. And he's a cool main character. It's mainly about Koichi, which sucks. And the story doesn't really... It kind of feels like there's some filler in there. But other than that, I think it's an amazing show. And still, I mean, I finished JoJo's like 2 years ago. To this day, I still think of the Stone Ocean ending. That is one of the greatest endings ever. That is up there with Full Metal and Code Geass. I can't get over it. Like, I still think about it all the time. Just the story of this show is second to none, honestly. But I've been talking good about all these that are the best at this, this, and that, and this, and that. Now you're wondering what number 1 is. But first, give you JoJo's is SS. Now you're wondering what number 1 is. My favorite anime of all time, my favorite show of all time, my favorite fictional story of all time, Naruto. I love Naruto. I personally just don't see how anyone could say anything's better. Obviously, you know, I'm not accounting filler, because who watches that? It's not a part of the story. Amazing story. It has amazing everything. I can't just keep saying amazing this, this, and that. So I'll tell you why this is number 1. The greatest characters in all of anime are from Naruto. The greatest characters in all of fiction are from Naruto. I know people might want to disagree and might want to say this, this, and that. But out of everything I've watched and everything I've seen in my entire life, Naruto has the best characters. And I find it crazy when people complain that, like, not a lot of characters do anything past that. That's not true. It's just not as much. But you look at the ones like in Shippuden. Obito is one of the greatest characters ever. Madara, in my opinion, is the greatest villain ever in anything. There's not a better villain than Madara. He is the absolute best. The Akatsuki itself, the best villain group ever. There's nothing better than that. They are the absolute best. And then even itself, like Team 7, you got Sasuke, who's doing his own thing for the most part. The best side character in history. Naruto, I don't even like Naruto, and this is my favorite show, which is crazy. He's not a top main character for me. Like, I don't think he's that great. But the show's so good. I even like Sakura. A lot of people don't. Kakashi is one of the best sensei/teachers in all of anime. He's just great. Even all the side characters, like, yeah, some of them lose their time in Shippuden, like Rock Lee. But Rock Lee in the original carried, man. Like, oh my god, every fight he had was fantastic. Every villain group is great. Orochimaru is great. Jiraiya, Tsunade, all the deaths are great. Like, everything about this, the music. I could just talk about this all day. This is by far the greatest piece of fiction, in my opinion. The only one close is really JoJo's. But this show just has the greatest characters. I mean, and in my opinion, that is the best part of a story, is the characters. You can have a mediocre story with great characters, and I think it makes it great. Like, for example, Cowboy Bebop, the story is kind of all over the place, but the characters are so good, the show's in my top 5. So, yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know your opinions down below. Like I said, I could keep talking about Naruto for hours, but I'm not going to. And obviously, I give it a triple S. So if you enjoyed this, leave a like, subscribe, comment suggestions down below. And what's your favorite anime of all time?